We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Happy birthday, Marsha. Okay, I just had to start off the show that way. Today's my birthday. You say it's your birthday. Na, 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 na. Welcome to the Born to Talk radio show. I am your guest, Marsha Wietecha, where conversations plus connections equals community. And what's your story is truly the essence of why I do this every week. And I'm really excited to introduce my guest to you today, because we've already been playing a little bit prior to recording your show with you guys live here today. And we've had a really good time laughing, and I suspect there will be some laughter going on today. Without further ado, let me please introduce my guest, Mona Clayton. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marsha. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's absolutely a pleasure. And Lori Robertson, welcome to the show as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's great. This show is all about women, successful entrepreneurs, really. Nurses. We're going to be talking a lot about nursing and why you guys are doing, why you're in the nursing field. I think you're my first nurses that I've had as guests on my show. Yay for you. Yay. Nurses.
Yes.
And
nurses are totally amazing.
I don't know, honestly.
Yes, we are.
You know, that's the real truth. Seriously, anybody that's ever had a loved one in the hospital, and I've told you this before, we love those doctors, and yes, they're important, but it's that nurse that you say, oh my God, I'm so worried about my mom, or does this look right to you, or you know, she needs help getting up, or whatever. You go to the nurses, and I have friends that have daughters that are nurses, so I have enormous respect for what both of you do, and you have a whole bunch of letters behind you. So I'm going to start with you, Mona, and I'm going to say, okay, so you are an RN. You are an MSN. We're going to talk about what that is. But you're also an entrepreneur. And you are a founder and the CEO of Nurses to Rock Pub. We're going to talk a lot about what that is, how you came up with that funky name. We're going to do that. Okay. And Lori.
Got some splaining to do.
You got some splaining to do there, Willis. So you got a bunch of letters behind your name, too.
I do.
MSN, not NBC. This is MSN. FNP-C. We're going to talk about what that is. But you are more than that as well. For 4 years, you are the owner and you are the clinical director of Ageless Medical Aesthetics Group.
Incorporated. It's a medical aesthetic clinics.
Right.
Yes.
It's a clinic, right. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you, we will be putting up the websites for all this, because you say it ageless, but it is not spelled the way you'd think. It is really spelled AJLISS, but we'll be talking about that as well.
I would say Hooked on Phonics worked for me.
Oh, there you go. Hooked on Phonics. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. I told you that's going to be one of those squirrel things. All right. So the way that Mona and I met, for those of you that don't know us, we are Toastmasters, Speakers by the Sea, and we are going to do our very best Toastmastery behavior to not so, like, and all that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I am going to impress you today with my speaking ability.
Well, and you know something? You always have. Whenever I hear you speak at Toastmasters, I'm always very impressed. Let's get to know each other, all right? And so I thought I'd start with you, Mona. Maybe you could tell our listeners, you know, a little bit about yourself, your family, you know, why you decided to be a nurse. Tell us about you.
Well, Marsha, it was about 29 years ago, and I produced this beautiful, wonderful woman named Ebony. And can I give her a shout out?
Absolutely.
Ebony, hello, out there in New York City. I know you're having champagne, but I wanted to say hello.
Your mom is awesome, by the way. Okay, go ahead.
And this beautiful woman, she was 9 years old when I was inspired to go back and become a registered nurse. At that time, I had tried all types of careers, from journalism. Oh. I was a computer science major. I was a massage therapist major. I was a business major. So I tried all these different aspects or different careers. But when my cousin Melody was actually a registered nurse in school in her last clinicals. Actually, she had not finished her clinicals, but she was still in school, and she actually delivered my daughter. And her inspiration, her excitement for the nursing profession, her professionalism, and her just energy for it prompted me to become a registered nurse. In addition, I was working for a first-line trauma center in Watts, California at the time, King Drew Medical Center. I was a receptionist there.
No kidding.
And the energy of the nurses, oh my God, they would save patients, literally doing cardiac massage therapy on people that were dying. And I was like, wow, these paramedics look fine when they come in. I want to be amongst these fine paramedics and these nurses, and they rock. And so I went back after having a computer science degree and getting my nursing degree at Los Angeles Southwest College.
That's awesome. Did you grow up here in California?
Yes, I'm a product of South Central Los Angeles. And they say that nothing good comes from the hood.
Well, that's not true.
I think Ice Cube said that or somebody.
What'd he know?
But he didn't know it. But everything.
Where'd you go to high school?
I attended John C. Fremont High School.
Went to Fremont. No
Fremont
kidding.
High
Didn't
School.
know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
A product
and
of
also,
LUSD.
actually, I forgot. Actually, out of high school, I became, I enrolled in the pharmacy school. I was in school of pharmacy, actually, was my career.
No kidding.
Because my mom wanted me to be a pharmacist. And I attended that for 1 year, and it just wasn't creative enough for me. And so I came back home.
Wow.
Yes.
I learned so much. Lori, we're just meeting for the first time. That you are, there's a lot to Lori. So, Lori, why don't you just...
It's like an onion, just peel me
Just
apart.
peel you apart, exactly. So let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, blah, 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 those kinds of things that are so interesting about you.
Thank you. I am Southern California born and raised.
All right.
I was born in Whittier, and I was born in the same hospital I worked at for 25 years, which was Presbyterian Community Hospital in Whittier.
Wow.
So I always wanted to be a nurse. I can't tell you why. It was just in my blood. Don't have medical people in my family.
I was going to ask that.
I
yes.
felt like you were going to ask me that.
Yeah, you could feel it.
But don't have medical people in my family per se, but just always was very interested in medicine. And I still am. It still intrigues me. I can never, ever know it all. You can never learn it all. It's something that's learning and growing and evolving all the time. So I ended up becoming an RN, gained my associate degree at Rio Hondo College in Whittier, working in ICU for 7 years, ER for 11 years.
Wow.
And kind of went on from there, learning something as I went. Worked in hyperbaric therapy, worked in pain management, just different arms of medicine, which gave me a really great foundation as far as medicine and to move on in my career. So it's been constantly a strive for education and constantly rewarding for me as a person to do what I do.
That's neat. And I bet you loved science when you were in school.
Love it.
But did you like that English performing side as well?
I did do a lot of drama in high school.
Yes, I was going to say, because you kind of, you're balanced, right? I mean, sometimes when
did.
people are really brainiacs, they don't really know about performing, but we're going to talk about it in a little while. What I am curious to know about, and one of you guys just jump in there, how'd you guys meet?
Well, it was one of those things that you go to this event. I think we were at University of Phoenix at a president's dinner. And I think I saw Lori and Lori saw me, and we said, "Hi, how are you?" And it was this instant something.
We just
I don't know.
connected.
We just connected instantly.
I can see why you would.
There weren't
honestly.
all nurses at the meeting.
There were
We
not.
No.
Oh.
And I didn't know anything about Lori. I just knew that, I got to meet this girl right here. And we just had this thing, and we exchanged business cards. And
I call
ever
it
since
speed
then-
dating.
Yes.
It was speed dating, right?
Yes.
I kind of put everything into
was
that
speed
category.
dating,
Speed
right.
networking, right?
There you go.
Right.
Isn't that neat?
Yes.
And so there was this kind of red carpet sort of experience that you both sort of felt when you just connected, like, whoa.
Right. Well, when I saw Lori, I said, this girl is red carpet. Something about her was something like I thought about myself. I just kind of saw Lori and I said, there's something special about this young lady that I got to get to know.
That's neat.
And so that's how it happened.
All right. So we're going to do that. We're going to play the alphabet soup game now.
Okay.
And I thought you could really, part of this enjoyment is also some education and inspiration that we do as well. There's a whole bunch of letters. I think everybody knows that an RN is a registered nurse. But from that forward, can you help me out here? What's an MSN? Either one.
MSN is someone who's gone above and beyond undergrad school, which is a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, on for a Master of Science in Nursing. So it's a graduate degree.
And does that allow you then to be a head nurse at a hospital or something like that, or not? That's unrelated.
You could be a head nurse without having
is
that degree.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
As we go on in time, BSN is the Bachelor of Science in Nursing is pretty much the entry level as we go on now in
All right.
nursing. So that's really highly recommended for RNs to become a bachelor's degree, bachelor's
right.
prepared nurse.
Well, the MSN helps you to bridge into advanced practice nursing.
Okay.
So like Lori is FNP, Family Nurse Practitioner. She has to have that MSN to bridge into higher levels.
It's a progression.
Yes.
Progression.
And you're an FMP-C. So what does the C mean?
The FNP-C is a family nurse practitioner, and the -C just means that I have gone on and taken a national board certification in family medicine. So we don't have to take boards. We don't have to take a national standardized board.
All right.
But we can. So that's something that I can carry with me, and that lets people know that I have a certain knowledge level.
Does that also mean that you could practice your career any place in the country because you're board certified? Would you, if you were to move to Minneapolis, would you have to take their boards?
No, it's a national board.
Okay.
But the license is state dependent. So
I
some
see,
states
yes.
are in a kind of a conglomerate where the license can be transferred.
I see.
Yes.
But some states, which California, which we're in, we don't have that reciprocity. So
All
we
right.
have to apply. Like I've applied, and I have a license in Idaho, Hawaii, Nevada. But you have to apply for different areas since we live in California.
And do you have to renew them?
yes.
Yes, and that's one thing I want to talk about is that I'm also a travel nurse. And in order to be a travel nurse, that's one great opportunity or one specialty that we as nurses have ability to do. And so with the travel nurse aspect, you have to have license in different states, like Lori was saying. So it's always good to have various licenses in various states in case you want to travel.
You know, that's really interesting that you said that because I do a lot of international travel, and we had to go to the health department to get inoculations and immunizations. We're going to go back to Vietnam in March, and the person that we spoke to was a travel nurse.
Right.
And that's really interesting. It's really interesting. So what kind of additional education do you require once you're moving through? Are these 12-month programs, 18-month programs, 2-year programs? How long does it take to get these additional certifications? Does it depend?
To be a travel nurse or to be a nurse?
Well, from the nurse to say you're an RN and now you're going to be an MSN. How much in additional education does that require?
Years.
Years.
Yeah. RN, you can be an associate degree. So you can go to community college and become an RN. The bachelor's degree is about a 5-year program beyond that. And then the master's is another 2-year, roughly, program beyond that.
It's very similar to becoming a physician, isn't it? I mean, it's...
I think you know what, I think that my master's program for nurse practitioner is like a condensed 2 years of medical school.
Wow.
Physicians
Yes.
have at least 4.
Yes.
They have at least 4, so we're not there.
All right.
But it's
Right.
2 years of intense pathophysiology and such.
What were you saying?
And what people don't realize is that with nurses, we have to know as much and more than what a doctor has to know. So I would like to elaborate on that a little later.
Let's do that. You know what?
Yeah.
I love the music. Now, you all know, if you've been listening, I know you have, I let my guests select the music. Mona was just left out of this whole thing, Mona, because we are reggaeing ourselves through this whole show, thanks to you, Lori. So we're going out with our buddy Bob. We came in with Jimmy Cliff doing Wonderful World, Beautiful People, and we're going out with jamming.
We love it.
Yes.
Jamming. So we're going to be jamming out just for a moment. We're taking a short break. But when we come back, we're going to elaborate on what you just said. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
That's awesome.
To think that jamming was a thing of the past. We're jamming, and I hope this jam is gonna last. Nobody can stop us now. We neither beg nor we will bow. Neither can we but not so. We all defend the right that our children must unite. Your life is worth much more than gold. We're jamming, jamming, jamming.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Marsha Wietecha inviting you to join me every Monday, 11 a.m. Pacific, for Marsha's Music Shuffle. My show features music from the 60s and beyond, bringing you artists and songs that touch us in so many ways with lyrics, rhythm, and voices. Put your dancing shoes on and join me every Monday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific, for Marsha's Music Shuffle, exclusively on latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Hi, this is Marsha Wietecha, inviting you to join me every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for Born to Talk, where conversations plus connections equals community. This is the heart of my show each week as my guests share their stories, from nonprofits, authors, sports figures, travel experts, and much more. If you have a story to tell, I want to share it. Don't forget to tune in to Born to Talk every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com. And you can watch live on Facebook and Twitter. If you missed the live show, check out my website, borntotalkradioshow.com, where you can watch on demand. Born to Talk every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, where conversations plus connections equals community. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. You know, I love this music. It feels like you should have like an umbrella in a drink, right?
Right.
And it should be here instead of this white water in a styrofoam cup.
Yes.
Doesn't that sound
Yes.
fun?
Right now.
It certainly does. Yeah, I wanted to let you finish your thought. You were talking about sort of the differences between nurses and doctors and that kind of care. Did you just want to finish your thought on that?
Yeah, I wanted to say that in terms of nursing, we have a holistic approach to healthcare.
Okay.
Meaning, when I said that we have to know as much as doctors, meaning that we have to know the same type of medications, the pathophysiology. We have to know how to treat patients, their prognosis. We have to know a lot of things about the patient in general because we're with the patients most of the time.
Yeah.
And also nurses have to check the doctor's orders. So it's not like you can not know what you're doing in terms of what the doctor's doing. You have
need to
to know
understand it, too.
everything
That makes
in
sense.
terms of procedures that we are doing for patients as well.
And
Lori?
in that same thought, if a physician writes the wrong dosage on something and we give it, it's our license.
Oh, no
Yes.
kidding. Who would have known that?
So we have to know
wow.
just as
Yes.
much.
That's very
and be
interesting.
careful.
I
Yes.
didn't know that.
My instructor used to say, dumb doctor, dumb nurse. Meaning, if a dumb doctor writes something and you do it and it's wrong, you're even dumber.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
It's
That's
a
an
big
interesting-
liability.
No kidding.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about your company because, as I said at the top of the show, you are an entrepreneur. We've got books in front of us that you've written, but you have a company. I thought you could tell us the name of your company and what your vision is. So what's the name of your company?
Well, Marsha, about 8 years ago, I was working for this big organization, healthcare organization, and there were a lot of medical assistants and receptionists and patients that were just intrigued by becoming registered nurses. And I was at home talking to a friend, and he said, "Why don't you just write a book?" And at that time, I was like, "What? Write a book?" And so I named a company called Nurses to Rock Publishing, in which I published these books from student to nurse and the journal. Well, it was just like a dare, but the book ended up in national distribution with Barnes & Noble.
Wow, good
But
for you.
thank you,
And
thank
here I'm
you.
thinking pub is like, let's have a beer.
No.
And I didn't know. That's very interesting.
No, but I'll go on about the
Yeah.
pub. So it was publishing initially, but then I named it, I said Nurses Rock. So the company itself was Nurses Rock too, because I feel that nurses are the backbone of the nursing community.
Right.
We are the backbone of the healthcare
Absolutely.
profession.
Yes.
And with this book, I started the book, and then there was something more intriguing that people just kept coming to me wanting to know more. And with the company, I started doing these seminars, the seminars for nursing students in which panelists, professionals would come and speak to the students, mentor the students. And it was just so rewarding to have all of this happen, to see people start nursing program, to end the nursing program. And it didn't stop there. So here it is now. I changed the name again because I thought Nurses Rock was just too common. Everyone started to rock. Everybody, nurses rock, this rock, everybody rock. And so I changed it to the Nurses Pub, in which the pub is a community in which my students can be mentored, they can be nourished. There's a community of professional nurses that can help. I have workshops, I have seminars, I have the books, I have T-shirts. Anything that I can help with the student becoming successful is what the Nurses Pub is about.
Oh, that's
And you
terrific.
can
What
also have a
vision.
drink if you want to.
There you go.
Yes.
That's medicinal.
It's all about nourishing students and nourishing the growth of future nurses, and
Absolutely.
it's so needed nowadays.
It
It's
truly
a
is.
tough role. It's a tough.
And you, Lori, also have an organization and a nonprofit that you started, and I want to say the name of it properly. It's called Fulfilling Faces, which is a really interesting name. I'd love to know about that organization and some of the stories that you can share regarding that.
Well, Marsha, for years I have wanted to take my medical expertise and help others. I've always looked at Doctors Without Borders. I've looked at Mercy Ships, and I haven't been able to, number one, afford to be away from my job for months at a time, and away from my children and my family. So, as I was doing my medical aesthetics, I had the opportunity to treat somebody who's a dear, wonderful inspiration to me. Her name's Mimi Fox. And she had been in a terrible car accident where the left side of her face was pretty much torn off. No nose, no cheek, it was horrible. And she was taken to Loma Linda University, which is a wonderful trauma center here in Southern California. I know that. And she ended up going through numerous surgeries and numerous types of treatments to help get her back into symmetry and shape. Make a long story short, she is my my dental hygienist.
Oh, no kidding.
So I had told her, I said, if you need anything, I'm here. If you need anything, I'm here. So I would see her once every 6 months.
Sure.
Finally, she showed up at my doorstep at my clinic and said, can you do something? So I ended up doing what are called dermal fillers, which are soft gels that you can kind of put under the tissue and kind of fluff up some tissue because she had lost all the fat and she was just kind of bone on one side of her face.
Wow.
And just doing a little bit on her. And what I did was I called my rep from Galderma, which is the people who do Restylane, and I said, hey, can you swing her a couple syringes? And they said, absolutely. So I ended up doing those with her and surprised her and said, it's free. You don't have to do this. She
nice.
was in tears.
Oh, you can imagine.
She was in tears. She had
She'd been
never
through
seen
so much.
She had never seen her face symmetrical. She had never seen it soft in 20 years. And
When you met her, she was already
Yes.
had this
Yes.
condition. Got it.
And she looked at me and she said, Lori, I don't mean to discredit what you do, but you need to be doing something like this. And a light bulb went off. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I don't need to go to Africa to help people.
Yes.
I can do it here.
Right.
So I started Fulfilling Faces, and she's my inspiration.
Wow.
And I'm able to get cancer victims who have had surgery. I'm able
Sure.
to get
Stroke?
trauma victims. Sometimes stroke if there's asymmetry with muscle. I do
Okay.
have people who've had Bell's palsy who are paralyzed on one side, and I can do Botox or Dysport on the side that has a lot of movement to make it their expression more symmetrical. So it's been a godsend. It's been wonderful to be able to help people because we as nurses, that's what we want to do. We are
Right.
here to help people. It makes
Right.
us feel good to help others. That's where we get our joy.
For those of you that might be listening to the show, you're maybe in the car, you're at your office or something like that, you can always go back and watch the show as well. And we do have a picture that you had sent me over of Mimi before and after. And I mean, she will be, you say that she inspired you, but I mean, she will love you for the rest of her life for how you changed her life. Can you imagine the self-confidence that she must have? It's just remarkable.
It's funny that you say that because for the first time in 20 years, she did a Christmas picture with her children.
Oh, wow.
And sent me a picture and said, this is the first time I've done a photograph like
Right.
this. So it's been, I mean, her story is beyond incredible.
I bet.
But it's just wonderful to even have a little tiny part of that.
You bet.
Well, that's the thing about nursing is that we leave imprints
You bet you do.
in people's lives. It's not about just going to the bedside or it's not about just doing a duty. It's about putting that imprint in someone's lives, whether it's a child or an elderly person or someone needing cosmetics. And that's what's so rewarding and significant about what we do.
And you don't just touch, honestly, and I don't mean to say this repeatedly, but you don't just touch that patient. The
Absolutely.
families.
Absolutely.
The families just, where would we be without nursing care?
Right.
You know, really, I mean that so sincerely. I've lost family members, and I think about my experiences when I would be in the hospital, just realizing how important it was to have that nurse there.
Well, you know what, Marsha? I didn't know the significance of what I do until about 4 years ago when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and I became that family member that was sitting in the hospital
Sure.
24/7 asking for blankets and water and things like that. I did not know the significance of what being a registered nurse and what I was doing was truly helpful to other people
Right.
until I was in that position.
Exactly. And now you really do get it, right?
I get it.
Oh, we so get it. And you get it
get
much
it.
more when you're on the other side.
Yes.
Absolutely.
really do.
Absolutely.
So you started your organization. I want to go back a little bit more to your organization. So you told us how you got the names, because you rock. But how long ago did you actually start this organization?
I started the Nurses Rock Company 8 years ago.
All right.
And actually, I do not consider myself an entrepreneur. Everything was done just by my creative thoughts, and I just put my thoughts on paper. But I've never had a business. I've never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, or anything. But all of these tools are coming out because of my wanting to help others.
Was that the inspiration behind this? I mean, is that why you started it, to start your organization?
Absolutely. It was the faces of those single moms and those people in the underserved communities that felt like, hey, Mona, how did you become a registered nurse? I'm not good in math. I'm a single mom. I just got divorced. How can I do this? I see that you're successful. And the thing about being a registered nurse, and I think, Lori, you might know about this as well, it's not what we say to the patients and the students, it's what they see in what we're doing.
Your actions.
So there was something that I was doing that attracted other people to the nursing profession. And that's how I came into the profession. It was what I saw back in my cousin that attracted me to the nursing profession.
I think that is so true because it's much more actions than words.
Yes.
And people know when you're being real. People know when you really
bet.
care about their mom or dad or their child. And we are there because we have empathy. I always tell people, if you don't have empathy and you're not there for the right reason, do something else. Don't be a
Yes.
nurse.
Well, this
don't be
is
a
not
healthcare provider.
but this isn't a walk in the park kind of job either.
No.
You see a lot, and you have to deal with a lot.
Absolutely. And that's one word I don't say about, I don't equate a job with nursing. Nursing is a profession. And a lot of students think of it as a job, but it's really a profession. It can't be considered a job because of the education we have to have, the training that we have to have. It's a very intense profession.
And are you finding more often now that men are starting to come into this profession as well, or not as much? Oh, that's funny.
We always have a minority of men in there, but we are seeing a fair share of men doing it because it's such a respectable profession to be
bet.
in. And it takes, I think men are finally realizing that, wow, it really takes somebody who can have a lot of critical thinking, who can assess situations, work quickly. It takes somebody with a lot on the ball to be a nurse.
Yes, so if you're single and looking for a man, go to the ER. You'll find a male nurse there.
Or
Absolutely.
So you see a lot of men nurses in ER?
I do. Well, actually in the hospital in general, but a lot of the men seem to be in leadership positions in the hospital setting.
Interesting.
But there are a lot of male nurses in the emergency room that I see, primarily.
I don't know if you answered this all. If you did, then I wasn't paying attention. Shame on me. Why did you decide to advance and become a nurse practitioner? Was there something specific that made you want to advance your career?
Marsha, I hadn't really thought about becoming a nurse practitioner. I hadn't really thought about getting my master's. I thought, that's out of my reach. And I had been working for 25 years, like I said, in the hospital setting. But in the last few years I was at the hospital, I was in a management role, and I did not like it. It was very demeaning. It was awful.
Really?
It was awful. And it made me motivated to go on and become a nurse practitioner. One of the main things in the management role that I missed were my patients.
Yes.
I missed my patients. So now that I'm back working with patients and now that I do aesthetics, I am a Cinderella. I can spend all the time I want with my patients. I can
That's
joke,
so
I can laugh.
nice.
I ask them about their kids, I ask them about vacations. It's my business, and also our nurses are the same way. We have plenty of time to spend with people. It's a joy. It's not a job.
Yes.
It's not a job.
It's not a job.
I would do it for free. I love what I do now. It's my passion.
That's go. You wanted to say
And
something,
mind
Mona?
you, Marsha, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there are about over 100 specialties to choose from with being a registered nurse.
Oh no, I didn't
So
know
it's
that.
a very, very unique and interesting
an
profession.
example.
Well, if you like working with forensics, there's a forensic nurse.
Oh,
If you like working in the courtroom, there's a legal nurse.
I hadn't thought of that.
There are
lots of opportunities.
Beyond
Oh
school
my
nurses,
gosh.
pediatrics,
School
neonatal, critical care. There's in the hospital, outside of the hospital setting, and then like
Sure.
I've done crazy other things being
Right.
a nurse. But yeah,
Yeah.
You're right,
Yes.
because mostly for the majority of us that just visit the physician once a year or twice a year, how often you go, it's the nurse that's going to give you that flu shot. Or it's the nurse that's getting you ready for the doctor. It's the nurse
Right.
that's getting all that input into the computers and the portal
Right.
so we can get it back.
Right.
Really isn't the physicians doing any of that.
and nursing
Right.
got me rappelling out of helicopters and saving stranded people on hills, on mountains. So
There's probably a story
there's
there.
a story behind that.
What mountain were you on?
I want to hear this.
Many mountains. I worked with the LA County Sheriff's Department as a mountain rescue and underwater dive recovery specialist for 13 years. So being a nurse got me into that, and I was able to get people off of mountains, and people that had crashed cars over mountains go down with the paramedics and bring them
Really?
back on stretchers. Yes.
Yes.
And into the water too.
Into the underwater dive recovery. They weren't generally it was weapon recovery, but sometimes body recovery and things like that. Yes.
And that people don't know about nurses.
Yes.
That is just not bed pens.
right. I don't
It's
think
not just injections.
No.
No, I don't. You're if you're just the normal Joe going to the doctor, you really don't know. And how terrific this is. And do you go into the high schools and start talking about nursing at all? I mean, have you ever approached some of these, like Bravo Medical High School and some of these high school, like
Yes.
right now in Watts?
Yes. Well, yes, I've done a lot of lectures at schools, a lot of career fairs.
Sure, I bet.
There's a lot of opportunities to talk to the youth about nursing as a career. And actually,
Sure.
I recommend my book for high school students, first year high school, not high school students, but first year college students. This book is an excellent tool for first year nursing students. And so I do tend to gravitate to the youth.
I
and
bet.
do a lot of career fairs.
You had mentioned something to me off the camera about the fact that you walked out of the LA divorce court and walked straight into your first day of clinicals, which, I mean, that had to be one of the most nerve-wracking days of your life. How were you able to meet a challenge like that emotionally and then turning around and saying, this is where I'm going?
You know, Marsha, I think that day was very purposeful because it prepared me for where I am now. Because there's no way I could have known that on January 19th, I would have been starting a nursing program and having this whole day at the divorce court. Actually, I had taken my clothing for the nursing program into my car and literally changed on the highway, going over thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be too late. I'm not going to be able to make it, because coming from Los Angeles all the way down to South Central Los Angeles. But it was a bittersweet day. It just prepared me for a lot of things. It made me stronger, because with nursing, you have to have that tenacity. You have to have that strength, that backbone, that courage. You got to just keep pushing. And it was a great day, because I went from one level of my life to another level of my life. And as nurses, we have to transition all the time.
With no regrets.
With no
With
regrets.
no regrets, because
With
it
no
is what it
regrets.
is, isn't
It
it,
is
Lori?
what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yes.
And don't you just love Bob Marley?
Yes.
Yes.
Can't you just see him? I love this song. So this is One Love. This is another Bob Marley song that we're also familiar with. and it just you want to just kind of like bob, don't you? And it makes you feel good. Go ahead, you can sing, honey.
Well, I just really want a plane ticket about right.
Do you?
Yes.
Can I go with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
This
Absolutely.
This gig.
I just want a plane
Honey, it
ticket.
didn't come
I'll go
with
to
a
the
plane
islands right
ticket.
now.
Exactly. We're going to take a real short break, everybody. Bob and the girls and I, we're going to just take a break and stay tuned because we'll be right back.
Thank you.
I'd really love to ask, is there a place for the hopeless sinners who has hurt all mankind? Just a Savior's own belief.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Marsha Wietecha inviting you to join me every Monday, 11 a.m. Pacific, for Marsha's Music Shuffle. My show features music from the 60s and beyond, bringing you artists and songs that touch us in so many ways with lyrics, rhythm, and voices. Put your dancing shoes on and join me every Monday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific, for Marsha's Music Shuffle, exclusively on latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Hi, this is Marsha Wietecha, inviting you to join me every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for Born to Talk, where conversations plus connections equals community. This is the heart of my show each week as my guests share their stories, from nonprofits, authors, sports figures, travel experts, and much more. If you have a story to tell, I want to share it. Don't forget to tune in to Born to Talk every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com. And you can watch live on Facebook and Twitter. If you missed the live show, check out my website, borntotalkradioshow.com, where you can watch on demand. Born to Talk every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, where conversations plus connections equals community. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. All right, so this is Ziggy. This is Bob's son, right?
Yes, it is.
I like this.
Have you heard this?
No, I've
Tomorrow
never heard this
People.
one. Oh, this is awesome.
Reggae music is just happy music.
Isn't it?
Isn't it? It's just feel good music.
Makes you want to just move, doesn't it?
does.
Yes.
It does. I love it. I've thoroughly enjoyed the selections that you've given us.
Thank you.
All right. So back to your Ageless. Well, so that's the name. It's called people can find you at www.ageless. That's spelled AJLISS.com. That's pretty clever. Did you? Is there a backstory about how you spelled ageless?
Actually, it wasn't my idea.
Oh.
I was kind of wooed by the current owner of the clinic, who had a couple brand new nurses and needed someone to come over and lead the clinic about 4 years ago.
All right.
So it took a while for him to talk me into leaving a really good position I had with a wonderful medical aesthetic clinic in Rancho Cucamonga, and he talked me into being a business partner, and the name was Ageless, AJLISS, and I looked at it at first. I went
How you say that?
And then it clicked. I went, ageless. Oh, ageless. And I love the play on words. I'm like, I'm hooked on phonics. Worked for me. So I didn't realize. He said, "You want to change the name?" I said, "No, it's great. I love it." Well, patients have been coming to us for 3 years now still say, "Oh, I go to Agelie."
Oh, that's so funny.
I'm like, I should have changed it. But
you know, when you hear it, that's just so. That's some things are forgettable. That's not
Yes.
forgettable.
Once you
That's
get it, you get
really
it.
That's a brand. And you're in 2 locations.
2 locations now. We recently opened our second clinic in San Dimas, California. So they're about 20 minutes from each other. We adopted we bought a medical aesthetic clinic that was there, adopted a wonderful staff that's like family to us.
Nice.
So it is, we are beyond blessed. We are beyond blessed. The staff I have that we work together as such a team. Yeah. We support each other so well. And our goal is nothing more than, number one, making sure our patients are safe, and
Yes.
number 2, making sure that they are 100% happy with whatever we do. And that's all we care about. Everything else falls in line. When you
Yes.
care about that patient, and that's number one, and you're not there for yourself or the money, then everything falls in line.
You bet.
We all get our
Absolutely.
paychecks, we're fine, but we all can sleep at night. We're very conservative. We never over-treat somebody. If somebody wants too much in their face or fillers or lips, we're like, no, come back
Okay.
later. So we have no problem saying no to people. And some people might go somewhere else, and that's okay, because I don't want my signature on something overdone. So we like people very natural, and we like people, we don't even advertise per se. We have a slow organic growth by word of mouth, and
Oh,
it's just a
nice.
wonderful, wonderful way to grow our business. And we went from 0 to 2,000 people in 2 years.
Oh, that's
Wow,
terrific.
that's
That's
amazing.
really good.
That's
and
amazing.
do you take insurance? I mean, are people allowed to have or
No, for medical aesthetics is like cosmetic dermatology.
I
so
see.
it's a cash basis.
it is?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
I really I didn't know it, so I guess there's no dumb questions if you don't know.
And here's what I love. When I worked in family practice as a family nurse practitioner, I
Mm-hmm.
was constantly struggling with HMOs.
Yes.
And I would need to get an MRI on a patient, and I had assessed that patient, and I knew what was wrong, and I'd have to put in an authorization request. And I say this, I say I have to submit it to the college, the board of high school seniors, because I got so frustrated because they would deny this request, and they didn't know that patient. They hadn't seen
Right.
that patient, so it would be very frustrating. And I don't miss that at all.
I bet you
Right.
don't.
Not at all.
I bet you don't. And frankly, since it's up front and understood, it takes a lot of it out of the patient's hands too. It's like, oh gosh, I have to wait. I don't know. It's just, it is what it is. Correct?
Exactly.
Gosh. So you mentioned Botox, so you do that. What are some of the other services that you would provide to somebody?
We have it's a very full service. Our clinics are very full service medical aesthetics, and a lot of people don't know what medical aesthetics
So
is.
maybe you could explain that.
So Botox and Dysport, we do both Botox and Dysport. Two of the
Wait,
there's
Botox and
Dysport.
what is? I don't.
So
I've
there
never
are,
even.
There are 3 different types of FDA approved botulinum toxin type A. There's only 3 in the country. That's the only thing that's illegal to use.
All
That's
right.
Botox, Dysport, and Xeomin, made by 3 different pharmaceutical companies. So if anything else is given to somebody, it's not legal.
All right.
So we use 2 of them because 2 of them confuse my patients enough. Mm-hmm. The third one
Yes.
I don't bring in because it would confuse them even more.
Right.
But they're the same drug. It's basically you're giving somebody. I tell them it's like Advil and Motrin. Pick one, see if you notice
Right.
a difference. If you do, great. If you don't, great. We do a lot of the dermal fillers, which are the Restylane, the Juvederm, things like that help to revolumize when people have lost volume. They're injectable gels.
Injectables.
And they're made out of hyaluronic acid, which is something you already have in your body. It's in your eyes, it's in your joints, but they've made it, cross-linked it, so that it doesn't break down as quickly as it does in your body. So it might break down in 6 months rather than 2 days. So it gives you volume back where you've lost volume. So I always tell people, if you've got a wrinkle from a muscle contraction, Botox, it relaxes muscles. If you have sagging from loss of volume, then put a filler in to revolumize. The trick is you put the filler in where someone's lost it,
Okay.
not where they don't lose it. So a lot of people go for the nasolabial and marionette lines, and people start looking like monkeys. We lose volume in our cheeks. If we put volume in our
that's
cheeks,
why.
it lifts up everything
That's why.
else. So we've got to put it where you've lost it. I tell people, if we put it where you've lost it, you look rested and not done. That's
Got
the
it.
whole trick.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's really and if you have that type of treatment, is that something that you have to then repeat 6 months from now, a year from now? How long does something like that last? Typically, or does
depends.
it depend?
Yeah, it depends. Depends on the type of filler used. Some last 6 months, some last 2 years. There are some that are permanent. I do a treatment called Sculptra. It helps you rebuild your own collagen. So it's your own tissue. So you slowly grow it over time, and as you age, it's your own tissue. You're going to age naturally, but you'll have more collagen than you would have had from the get-go.
Oh, that's
So and we do all the lasers, laser hair removal, all the laser resurfacing. So we do have all the different laser treatments for pigment and melasma. Several types of treatments that we provide.
You told me about a treatment for the abdomen where it shrinks. Can you? I want to hear about that. Actually,
Mona's like, let me
too.
hear about the
Yes, 'cause
fat killing
I'm
machine.
going to try that. I think.
We do a treatment called Ultra Shape.
Okay.
And it is, if you look on Real Self, it is very highly rated as far as people having a very positive response to it. Thumbs up.
Okay.
It is ultrasound fat destruction. It's permanent. You're born with a certain number of fat cells. You're going to die with that many unless they're sucked out,
you like that?
cut out, or
Yeah.
killed. So this treatment kills layers of fat cells. So when we do about 3 sessions, you lose about 20% of the volume of the fat that we've treated, and it's forever. It's permanent, and it doesn't hurt. That's the best thing. There's no downtime, and it doesn't hurt. You can read a book while we're doing it.
Okay.
Oh, I like that. Would you treat somebody that had spider veins in their legs?
I do all the time. We have a couple different treatments for that.
What do you do?
If the vein is big enough for me to put a tiny, tiny little needle in, and I mean like a needle that you would get a TB test with, if that vein is big enough, I can put a solution in there called a sclera, and it's a very mild detergent that makes the vein sticky and it sticks together and the vein goes away. If they're the tiny little red and blue spider veins that are on the nose or on the legs, then I have another treatment with a little radiofrequency needle. I touch the skin. I don't even make a needle hole in it. Touch it, and the vein just shuts down all along the way. So I have them on my Instagram, the videos, and it's really interesting to watch.
And you know what's, and I mean, I'm not unusual. I think we all have areas in our body that we wish were a little bit different. But because I've had spider veins in my legs, on my thighs, blah, 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 it's affected how I dress. It affects whether I'm going to put a bathing suit on. It doesn't even have to do with weight. It has to do with that white and purple, or that white and red, because I'm talking about how white my legs are because they don't get out in the sun. That's not attractive. And that's really interesting to me that there's actually something that you could do about that. We're not talking varicose veins.
No.
We're talking
Small.
surface.
Yes.
Whoa.
Small red, blue veins on the surface.
That's
If they're
so-
bulging, they probably need a more of a surgical ligation.
That is pretty cool.
It's awesome.
I want to talk a little bit more, Mona, about these books and, you know, how you use them. One is a journal. Tell me about your books
Well, the first book is actually
and the title.
It's called From Student to Nurse, Surviving the Journey as Painlessly as Possible. Again, it was published in 2008 as a way to inspire and motivate future nursing students. It talks about my journey. It talks about how I started school, and it gives some tips about how to be successful as a registered nurse or as a student. The second area is the survival journal, in which I market it as a survival kit set. And the journal, I believe journaling is a very effective way to help get you through these difficult times in school, in particular nursing school. So I developed this survival journal to help so that people can write down their frustrations or their anxieties while they're going through the nursing program, in which that's greatly needed as a nursing student.
I'm thinking about a friend of mine that ended up divorcing during nursing school. The stress was so heavy. Now, maybe the marriage was in trouble. It's not like you become a nurse or you get divorced, but I'm just saying maybe having a journal might have helped reduce some of that stress along the way and get some of what's up here onto a piece of paper and try and appreciate how difficult nursing school can be.
Nursing school it was so hard. It was
very
so
hard.
much. I still look back and go, wow, it was information overload.
It is a very difficult challenge, especially if you don't have that support system with you. So having a supportive family, a supportive spouse is so crucial when you're going through nursing school. It's almost like taking medical school in a sense.
Right.
It's almost the same thing. So you have to be very focused. You have to have a lot of energy.
Determination.
A lot of determination. You have to take a lot of heat from your nursing instructors. It's just a very intense study period.
And time management. And, you know, we don't want to scare people because clearly you're both nurses and you successfully went through your programs and then some, got additional degrees. So I don't think you're saying, so, you know, if you're of the faint of heart, then, you know, bypass this and you could, you know, be a dog walker. You're just saying that you have to recognize going into this what those expectations are.
Well, I say if you're at the faint of heart, that it may not be your profession because you're going to take a lot of bull from a lot of doctors, from your own colleagues, from administrators, and from patients and their families. You have to be very strong for this profession. And that's what I talk about in my book. I talk about the strength that you need to pass the clinical rotation. And there's some positive things in there that I talk about. Just because you're not good in math or something, that doesn't mean you cannot be a nurse. You know, you just have to study a lot and just have that determination to keep going on.
And you know, we've all gone through nursing school, and you put your nose to the grindstone, and you're disciplined, and you make it. And there isn't one day that I have been sorry that I didn't do that. Not one day.
Yes.
Every day, I can be on the freeway, and I see an accident, I will stop for them all. we're covered in the Good Samaritan Act anyway, but I will stop for them all because I know what to do.
Absolutely.
If somebody's choking in a restaurant, I know what to do.
Absolutely.
It's knowledge I carry with me every single day of my life.
Yes.
And it can always help somebody else.
And with that knowledge, that's how we are so powerful. The power that you know that you can save a life is so powerful. It's just, that's why the profession is just so powerful, that you know that you can, if you see someone choking, like Lori said, you can save a life. Or you can take someone's face and rearrange it. That's power. Or you can go in and help a family member, the family that's, maybe the family member is dying, and make them
Grieving.
feel better.
Yes.
That's power. All nursing is just such a powerful profession that people just don't realize how powerful it is.
So here's the power. I just thought of this, and we hadn't even
What's
mentioned
that?
this before. When I was in my first year of nursing school, I was working as a nurse's aide, which we like to do to learn to look to see what we're getting into. So I was working as a nurse's aide. A patient had given me a handful of candies, the little round ball candies, and I put one in my mouth at the nurse's station, and somebody's light went on. And I kind of tucked it aside in my cheek and walked down to the room and said, "Hi, what can I do for you?" And he said, "I want water or something." And I said, "Okay." And I went to take a breath, and the ball went right down into my trachea.
Wow.
I couldn't breathe. I walked out of the room, backed up to the wall, and I had my hands on my throat, and I couldn't take a breath. All my air was out, and I couldn't take a breath. The nurse, who was right next to me handing out medicines, looked over at me and said, "Can you breathe?" And I said, "No." And I thought to myself, can I run down the hallway and get to ER? I thought, no, I'll pass out on the floor and nobody will know why I'm passed out. Wow. So I looked over to her and motioned for her to come over, and she did the Heimlich 4 or 5 times, and the little candy popped out of my hand.
Wow.
And I'm alive to this day because of her. But this was a nurse who saved my life when I was in nursing
Absolutely.
school. So you never know.
Yes.
You never know.
That's one thing I want to say, though, that because you're with patients, they never call for the doctor. You will always, no matter where you are, if you're even on the street, a person will call for a nurse before they call for a doctor, which I think that's really ironic. Like, but that's just how people feel about us, and the perception of nurses is that we are the ones that are doing things.
It's so respectable.
It is
You
very
must be-
respectable.
It's
Very
you must
respectable.
Be so very proud to call yourself nurses, and you're in a sisterhood and a brotherhood. I
Yes.
mean, you are. It is certainly a family of professionals that really truly understand what it is that you do. And Lori, I know that you had mentioned something about being a sheriff, but this lady, she is really something besides
Peel
that.
back the onion,
Yes.
Marsha.
Let's just at least peel one level of this part, because let's talk a little bit about General Hospital, that show that was on CBS ABC, General Hospital. Why do I bring General Hospital up when I look at you?
Well, I worked on that show for about 19 and a half years. And a little backstory to that, I auditioned to be on a show. When I went to Pepperdine, one of my friends ended up being a casting agent. And she called me and said, "Lori, go audition for this TV show." And I said, no. She said, "Go audition." So I auditioned, went back for a callback, got the part. It was called Group 1 Medical. It lasted about a year. But the director of that show ended up directing General Hospital part-time. He said, "Lori, come on over and see if you can audition to be on General Hospital." So I went over and auditioned, and the producer, one of the Wes Kenny at that time and Bob Bardo, 2 amazing, wonderful men, they looked at me and said, "Well, you know what? We really need a new medical consultant for the show. And if we cast you as a character, we could kill you off. So do you want to be a medical consultant? And you're union, so we'll just put you on as a nurse." I said, "Sure." So I did that. I got all the scripts sent to my home. I rewrote the medical dialogue. I would order all the props. I would deal with long-term and short-term storylines with all the writers. Sometimes if they wanted to veer off and have somebody paralyzed and then walk again, I would say, take my name off the credits. But in general, there were a lot of storylines that I was very proud of. We had an HIV storyline that got a lot years ago, if you remember that got a lot out into the public as far as HIV. We had a breast cancer storyline. We had a pediatric heart transplant storyline, and I had a lot to do with those, and I was so proud of that. We would do PSAs after the show and had numerous people who wanted to know about organ donation. So there were a lot of great things that came out of that. So for 19 and a half years, I did that. And then when I got my own business as far as being a nurse practitioner, I didn't have time to get into LA to be to do the show as much as I
I'm
had.
trying to just grasp your life. So while you were doing all of that, had you already you had already received all your credentials? You were already.
No, actually, I was in my master's program while I was working on General Hospital.
sure, you
I remember
had
studying
time.
in the green room. I'd have big medical surgical books in my lap on the green room in the green room.
Brave.
Imagine.
Yes, brave.
Oh my gosh. Get up, stand up. You know the words? Get up, stand up. We're going to take a very brief station break because you aren't going to believe this, but this hour has just about concluded. That's how fast it goes when we're having a good time.
Really?
So stay tuned, everybody. We're taking a quick station break, and we'll be right back with Mona and Lori. Stay tuned.
What life is really worth is an all.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Stand up for your right.
Okay, so get up, stand up. It makes you want to put your hands up, doesn't it? Exactly. Well, before we continue, I do want to let people know how life goes on. First of all, like as I said, it was my birthday, yay for me. I don't know, you just keep getting a year older each year. That's how it works. But I want to tell you about my guest next week. Perhaps you remember, oh gosh, it was last year. I had a guest on my show, Sarah Tubert. And Sarah was on my show. I was telling you, she's deaf. She's considered legally deaf, but she's able to hear thanks to a hearing aid. And she did a show with me all in American Sign Language. So she spoke to me. She did her sign language. She plays with the Deaf Olympics. They just won the bronze this past summer. And her dad was in the studio while she was doing the show. And we just hit it off so well. And he is just the most proud husband and father of his daughter Sarah, his daughter Emily, who's on the LBGA. So he's going to be on my show next week because he's also an actor. And honestly, I think we're probably going to spend about a half an hour just talking about olives in Europe. But that's one of the things we seem to have loved about talking to each other on Facebook. So you'll have to stay tuned for that. But in the previous segment, we put up some photos of pictures where you guys have received awards. And I believe you both received awards at the same function. Is that right, Mona?
Yes, that was a surprise to see Lori sitting at my table because no one knew who was nominated for this Distinguished Alumni Award for University of Phoenix. We were selected out of 92,000 Southern California alumni,
Wow.
and there were like 15 awarded that night. And it was to honor individuals that have done extraordinary things with their education from University of Phoenix. So that was a great night,
You got the alumni award, correct, Lori?
We both did. We both actually won Distinguished Alumni Award.
Oh, okay, terrific. Oh, that's and you've received awards. There's a picture for people that might have been watching the show. It was on at noon, I believe, on NBC called The Doctors, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
we have the picture of you with one of the participants in that program, right?
Well, Dr. Andrew Orden is our faculty. He's one of our faculty advisors for the Aesthetic Academy, which is a wonderful conference that's put together that educates people on aesthetics. And he's one of our faculty members, and he's one of the lead people there. So he was a couple times since I've gotten awards. He's the one handing me my award when I've gotten Best Aesthetic Nurse.
So he wasn't on camera on that show. Am I wrong about
on
that?
The Doctors?
Uh-huh.
Yes, he was. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's what I thought.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
he is lead. He's one of the lead.
Oh,
He's
that,
one of
okay.
the
So
important
he
people.
did both things, just like you.
Yes.
You're multifaceted
Yes,
people.
and he works. He still does surgery.
Oh, so what's next in nursing? Do you think that more and more technology is just on the horizon where robots are going to do things? And I don't know. What do you think? What's happening in nursing? Anything?
Medicine has become extremely automated.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Very automated. You don't
Yes.
see charts anymore. You see, they're called cows. They're computers that roll around on wheels. Everything is instant. You can
Right.
access your hospital and your medical information instantly.
Yes.
We can
I kind of like that
It's
as a
amazing.
patient.
Yes.
That means that you can go to your portal, whomever your doctor is. You can see your history. You can see your
Yes.
medications.
It's wonderful.
They can talk to
Yes.
the pharmacy.
Yeah, nurses, we have our iPads, our iPhones now.
Mm-hmm.
We can text our doctors. And they even have these little robots I saw at one of the hospitals I was working. I didn't know this robot was standing behind me looking at me, but it's to observe patients that might are high risk for fall. This thing, the eyes were moving about and moving back and forth. I'm like, what the? So they have robots to watch instead of the nursing attendants being there. Little robots that walk around and look at patients, which I think is kind of weird. I was kind of
Well, so you have a goal, right? You have a goal to have 100,000 nurses.
yes, Marsha, and it is becoming a reality.
Good.
I've connected with a lot of students in Africa, China, all through my Facebook page, the Nurses Pub. A lot of students. There's one gentleman that I really have attached to. I met him over about 4 years ago on Facebook. His name is Kenneth. He lives in Nairobi. Hi, Kenneth. He lives in Nairobi, Kenya, and he started out. His wife left him with with his 9-year-old daughter, and now he is a surgical registered nurse and working on his master's in Nairobi, Kenya.
That's awesome.
And I met him through Facebook. I've met students in Ghana. I have pictures. They send me pictures. They email me or talk to me on my message. There are students from China. So I think reaching the 100,000 is going to happen. I'm reaching out to Oprah, though, now. She has a school for girls in South Africa that I would love to connect with to actually donate some of my books to them.
Oh, wonderful.
And so that's my plan next, to reach out to Oprah.
How will people find you on Facebook?
www.
Oh, that's your website.
Yes.
Oh.
.nursemona.com. And also the Nurses Pub is on Facebook.
Okay, so the WW is, I'm sorry to interrupt. So the website is, repeat it one more time.
www.nursemona.com. And then on the Facebook page, we're at the Nurses Pub. That's P-U-B, Pub.
Okay. And just like that, we talk about how we prepare and how we're going to do this and how we're just going to sit around drinking Bloody Marys. And maybe today was more with the umbrella with the reggae. But it's been a pleasure. It's a pleasure meeting you, Lori. Mona's always great to see
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
This has just been
Thank
the
you.
best.
Thank you
Yeah.
for helping to support nurses.
You know, really, because nurses do rock, don't they?
Nurses do rock, and today is a great day to be great.
It is a great day to be.
It's a great day to be great.
It is. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the show, for staying tuned, for sharing the show with your friends. Maybe you have a son or daughter that's really contemplating the nursing profession. This should be very inspiring for you to do that. So I want to thank you so much, and I look forward to having you join me in November. How the heck did that happen? The Christmas stuff is already out. This is crazy. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Touch me, take me to that other place. Teach me, I know I'm not a hopeless case.
Thank you for tuning into LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network, original reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Stay tuned.
Broken